Some Latino lawmakers are urging President Biden to support passing immigration reform even if Republicans don't get on board. Members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus visited the White House this week. They say they want to try and find GOP votes for a pathway to citizenship for some undocumented immigrants. But if partisanship continues, they say the president should move forward anyway and back a plan to include it in the reconciliation process. That would bypass the Senate filibuster and allow Democrats to pass a bill with only 50 votes rather than 60. Early reports from inside the room characterized President Biden as receptive to that idea. But that's not necessarily how Press Secretary Jen Psaki spoke about it on Wednesday.
Well, I guess I can articulate what the president's point of view is and certainly what his intention of conveying in any private meeting was, which is that he believes there should be bipartisan support. Of course, members are going to propose a range of mechanics for moving things forward. But his view is that the conversation right now should not be focused on reconciliation. It should be focused on finding a bipartisan path forward.
Democratic Congressman Pete Aguilar was in that meeting and joins me now. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. You represent California's 31st District, which covers San Bernardino County. I want to hear from you about what you took away from that meeting with President Biden. Can you actually see him getting on board to pass a pathway to citizenship for an estimated 11 million people without Republican support? Or is the filibuster going to claim another victim here?
Well, thanks for having me, Caitlin. I think, from our perspective, we just feel that there needs to be relief offered to individuals. There have been bipartisan proposals. There have been bipartisan proposals to fix and offer a path to citizenship for dreamers and those with temporary protected status, as well as ag worker modernization bills. All of these things have passed in a bipartisan way, the House of Representatives already this year. What we're advocating for is that any vehicle that's moving, if it's legislative in the Senate or through any other means, we need to try to address this issue. That also includes essential workers, those essential workers who are stocking our grocery shelves, working in the fields. All of those individuals are worthy of relief at this time. And so that's what we conveyed, that we believe the time has come. We need a path to citizenship. The American public is behind us. Democrats and Republicans across this country agree that this is something that should be done. We think the appetite in Congress should mirror that.
And did you talk about any sort of timeline for this? In other words, does he want to go forward with trying to get Republican support, or did you say at some point something has to give? Did you give any sort of timeline that you would like to see on this?
No, we didn't get into the mechanics of the timeline. I mean, and this was one of about a dozen topics that we addressed. And I should also say that the president and the vice president were incredibly gracious to hear us out on this and a range of issues, from wage gaps to health equity. We really did, talk about creating jobs, stimulating the economy, the American Rescue Plan. And they gave us much more time in the Oval Office than they had indicated they would. So, it really was just a good, wide-ranging discussion. But this is just an example of the president being responsive to the Hispanic community, wanting to hear us out. But we'll work through those mechanics. We'll work through what we need to do to accomplish this relief. And I'm confident that we have partners in President Biden and Vice President Harris.
And Congressman, as we understand it, there was also some discussion about asking the White House to create a civilian humanitarian response corps for the southern border. What would that look like? What role would that fill that border agencies aren't already handling?
Well, it could help expedite the process. We already do this now with disasters, when there's disaster relief organizations and the disaster relief corps that does a lot of these functions right now. So what the proposal is let's work to see if we can address something that is similar in construct. So these would be individuals who would be trained by the federal entities. They could handle, casework. They could handle a lot of areas and issues to help expedite the timeline for family reunification. So that's what was proposed is could we use the disaster model as something that could flex up and flex down depending on how many individuals present themselves at the border for asylum. And so that was, I think, a positively received and something that we need to continue to work through, but just a unique idea that makes sense.
And overall, President Biden has pledged to move away from the Trump administration's restrictive immigration policies that he has attacked as racist. He's done that in some areas, but in others, the message has been less cohesive, like what we saw this week when they initially kept Trump's record low refugee cap in place. So in your view, from where you sit, what is the administration doing well on immigration and where are they struggling?
Well, we've come a long way. I mean, the system they inherited was terrible. I mean, what the Trump administration tried to do at every step of the way was to dismantle our asylum process. And so I think what the president has attempted to do correctly is, leading with compassion, working with stakeholders, trying to address this issue. They've been, very clear on that the border is closed, but we aren't going to turn away unaccompanied minors, and that's just a humanitarian position that they have staked out. We don't want to be the only country to turn away kids who present themselves for fear. And so, those are things that the administration has done right, and we continue to partner with them and work with them to address these issues. But they are responsive to the concerns that the Latino community has, and we count them as allies in this effort.
And one of the responses was to put Kamala Harris, the vice president, in charge of overseeing diplomatic efforts with Central American countries, which, of course, is the main source of immigration to the southern border. This is an attempt to address the root causes of migration. Has anything come from this yet? And is there anything that they should be doing or could be doing with their executive power now while those longer-term changes are being made and addressed?
Well, I think that the vice president has been having a number of briefings with stakeholders. She's been working on this issue. She pledged that she will continue to work with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus as we articulate other ideas and proposals that could be helpful for the administration, including opportunities for these young people to present themselves in their home country for asylum. So things that could help the process, help expedite the process, help reunify families. Those are the things that are important. But from the diplomatic lane, the vice president has already had a number of these conversations, and she and her team are well versed on these issues. Being from a border state in California, these are things that she has discussed and talked about for a number of years. So we look forward to her leadership in having conversations diplomatically to help address the root cause of migration and to figure out what role Congress plays in this discussion as well.
Well, Congressman Aguilar, we're so appreciative of your time, and we hope to speak with you again as this issue continues on Capitol Hill. Thank you for coming on with us.
Thanks, Caitlin.